Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Time Between Times Storytelling with me, Owen Staton. Scant few days have passed since we ended the Festival of Fable. 5 tales in 5 days, 5 themes for one charity. The Police Rehabilitation Centre in Goring-on-Thames, and your generosity knew no bounds. I thank you so much, and to everyone who left a message on Just Giving, diolch o galon, thank you very much. I will make this an annual thing, that same week in May, leading up to the 22nd or wherever the closest Saturday may be. But next year, I hope to perform a live show. So if you are close enough, you can visit, and if you are not, we will make sure it is filmed so you can enjoy it. Thank you, my friends. Before we go further, you can find out more about me and what I'm up to at welshstoryteller.com. And of course, you can support this podcast by leaving a nice review, or just by telling your friends about it. And if you really can, why not buy me a Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/Owen Staton, or join my Patreon group at patreon.com/Owen Staton 7. But now that's all out of the way. The sun has been blazing today. I can feel it on the back of my neck still. My skin is tingling. My creativity is awoken. Every day I step outside and feel the cool summer air on my face and know it's good to be alive. The winter is gone. You may think the time of tales is over, but it is never over. We can always gather at the fireplace at the heart of the forest at the time between times for more tales traditionally told. So sit back. Close your eyes if it's safe to do so. Let your imagination be overrun by a tide of tales. And imagine you are sat in your living room, in the armchair you love so much. You place down your cup of tea or coffee, and for a moment you take a breath. The air is as quiet as the grave. But outside you can hear your neighbours talking. The odd car rumbles past. You have an option. You can sit here for the rest of the night until darkness comes, and then retire to bed with a book and lose yourself. Or you can come on one last adventure, to the fire pit at the heart of the forest. Filling your heart with courage, you stand up, place on a small summer jacket, and head out of your front door. The road goes ever on, and whenever you follow it, there is adventure. You take a right turn and head to the forest, and there you see it, the trees stretching to the sky. You know there's a small gap in them. Many people walk past it without even noticing it. But just where the grass is broken, just where the rocks are pushed to one side, there are the remnants of a path that lead into the darkness. You turn around and look behind you. The sun is starting to set. The moon is starting to rise. This is the time. Of course, this is the time between times. You set foot into the forest. There are shadows everywhere, shadows and shadows, shadows. You step forward until you come to the old mossy tower. You give it one look tonight before moving onwards to the babbling brook. For a second, because it has been so hot, you kneel down, fill your hands with water and drink from the crystal clear brook, knowing that this water has spent thousands of years under the ground. It refreshes you and makes you feel whole. And there you see it, in front of you, the clearing at the heart of the forest. Your friends are there, for they have gathered. Friends from the future, friends from the past, friends who have been there always. Anyone you want to be there is there. They greet you as you step forward, and you look up again and realize the time has come. Because now is the time between times, the time when it's neither night nor day, but the sun has gone and the sky is grey, the time when the veil between our world and the fairy world grows wafer thin, so thin that for a moment, and just a few moments, you can reach into their realm, and for a few moments they can reach into ours. You see, now is the time that people see lights in the sky. Now is the time that people see the Tylwyth Teg. Now is the time that people see ghosts. Now is the time between times. Far away you can hear the howl of wolves. You can hear the growl of bears. But you know you are safe right here at the fire pit at the heart of the forest. And tonight we go to one of my favourite places as the storyteller rises and starts to tell his tale. The Swansea Valley. The upper Swansea Valley, to be exact. To Pen y Cai and Glyn Tower. The Swansea Valley, a place so dark, they say, the sun only shines there an hour a day, and then at the height of midsummer. But it's a place filled with magic. And there on the slopes of the Cribbarth over 200 years ago, the Cribbarth Mountain, the sleeping giant, as you look upon it, it looks like a man asleep on his back, a giant asleep and waiting for who knows what. But there, on the side of the mountain, was once the farm of Gwennws, one of the most prosperous and thriving farms in the Swansea Valley. Every day the fields on the Cribbarth were filled with sheep and cows. The plants grew, the farmers grew prosperous, and every night they would go to the village of Abercrave and celebrate with their food, their meat, their harvest, their eggs, sold to villagers for miles around. Generations of the same family had farmed there, and their name is now no longer spoken. For you see, prosperity filled the farm. But after a while, they grew jealous. They grew angry. They grew spiteful, for the more someone has, the more someone wants. And one night, on a night very much like tonight, when the sun was starting to fall and the moon was starting to rise, the farmer and his family sat around the fireplace counting their money. The sheep could be heard outside. The cows could be heard walking through the grass. But something else started to be heard. It was far away at first, like music played on old reed pipes, travelling through the air. The farmer and his wife went to the window, but they could see nothing. About 50 yards from the window of the farm was the tree line. And after a while they swore they could see lights sprinkling and figures dancing and music being played on this night. They tried to think nothing of it and went to bed, and the next day had another prosperous day. But the next night the same thing, music being played, laughter on the wind. They ignored it again until on the third night the farmer could think nothing of anything but the music. And he stepped outside and walked towards the tree line. Every step he took through the grass, he could feel his heart beating faster until he came to the edge of the trees and peered in. He turned back and looked at Gwennws. All his life he had worked hard to make it like it was. And what he saw, he could not believe. There, just beyond the trees, were the Tylwyth Teg, the very folk, the fairy folk, dancing round a fairy ring. The music played so loud it echoed amongst the trees. The laughter was so jovial that even his heart, filled with fear and darkness, started to beat faster. And then he saw why the fairies were here. There was a fairy market taking place under the moon on this night. Here the fairies swapped small, tiny shoes, small hats, and gold and silver uncounted. They seemed to take no notice of the farmer, lost as they were in their world. He turned back and realised that if the people of Penacai, of Abercrave, of Ystrygynlais got to hear about the fairies living but yards from his window, they would never buy his milk again. They would never buy his beef again. His rage knew no bounds. He leapt into the forest, his feet crunching down, scattering the fairies all over the place. They ran into the woods, crying into the night. And then he stepped and jumped and crunched on the fairy market, leaving its prosperity in ruins. He laughed as he jumped. The very folk disappeared into the woods, and the farmer stomped back across the field to his house as darkness fell. The next day was much like any other. The farm was prosperous, the animals were happy, the plants grew. But as the season went on, a strange change overcame Glyn Gwennws. One by one the animals started to die. The plants started to wither, the trees started to fold. A shadow crept over the mountain. A mist that would seldom pass set upon the Swansea valley. And it became known as a ghastly, grisly place. The people of the nearby villages would not attend the farm, for they said that shapes rung amongst the wind. The farmer soon realised that what he had done had caused a curse, soon realised that his prosperity, his farm, his dreams now lay in tatters. The winter came, and it became bleaker still. Holes in the roof made the water run down the walls in the house. He and his family were just sitting crouched around the remains of a fireplace, slowly starving. When one midwinter night there came a knock on his door. He opened it and peered outside, and there was a man dressed in black, a cloak covering his body, and a Bible under his arm. He introduced himself as the Reverend Lloyd, and said to the farmer and his family, "I know exactly what's gone on here. I know why the farm has failed. I know why your crops are broken. For you have scattered the Tylwyth Teg. I can make this better. But you must do as I say. Stay within the house until I come back, and no matter what you hear outside, you must not leave. Do you understand? What food do you have left?" The farmer showed him a small bit of bread and an apple. "Is this truly the last that you have? Then give it to me." Reverend Lloyd took the food and walked off towards the tree line. The farmer and his wife watched him go, and he disappeared in the woods. As the night grew darker, something happened that had not happened for a long time, and they looked in the sky and saw that the stars were starting to fill it. Stars uncounted, filling the Swansea valley with brightness. The next day, the sun shone like it had not shone for many years. It filled the valley with warmth, and the plants started to grow once more. The day after, 5 sheep returned to the farm. But that evening, Reverend Lloyd returned as well. I have been into the forest, and I have spoken with the king of the fairies. He respects your offer of the last of your food, and says that you can be at peace again. He will no longer trouble you with his market, his fair, but you must always offer the last apple and the last bit of bread, and leave it at the edge of the forest. And I have also offered to stay here, for I have not long of this world, and I wish to take my remaining days with the Tylwyth Teg. It was only a week later that the Reverend Lloyd passed away in the field outside the house. His funeral was great, and all the people of the valley came. As his coffin was marched through the fields towards the graveyard at the church at the bottom of the hill, 2 white doves seemed to come from heaven and land upon it. The fairies were often heard dancing. Their songs were often heard at the night in the trees beyond the farm. But the farmer did everything he could, and gave the last of his food, and offered thanks to the fairy, until his dying day. No more farmers claim to Glyn Gwennws, and it is now overgrown and ruined. And it is still said that if you pass there at the time between times, the time it's neither night nor day, but the sun has gone and the sky is grey, you can still hear the fairy folk dancing under the moonlight. And always, 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 if you walk in the fields near the old farm, you will see 2 white doves perched upon its roof. And there is a saying in the Swansea Valley, a saying that many people say, "Pryd gaf I got newydd, mam, pam thou Faire Glyn Gwennws." It means, when shall I have a new coat, mam? When Glyn Gwennws fair comes next. It is said to be a proverb, saying that the fairy fair will never ever come to Glyn Gwennws. But I, for one, hope that it does. Thank you, my friends, for joining me here at the time between times, the time it's neither night nor day, but the sun has gone and the sky is grey. You can follow me on Twitter at the Owen Staton, and please tell anyone who may be interested where to find the fire pit at the heart of the forest. Have a great week, my friends. Nosta.